Hey guys, welcome to, I guess you could say, a quick episode. The 2018 season uh, hasn't gone exactly how I wanted. I know that may seem odd coming from a guy who was laid down, green score 175-inch deer October 5th. This episode of Embrace the Journey, we're going to touch on something that everybody goes through, and it's not something that a lot of people want to admit, especially because men are prideful. But we're going to talk about and tackle the inevitable when everything goes wrong, and what we can do and what we can learn from that. So this episode's not going to be real long, but it's going to hopefully be worth a watch. So stay tuned. Small Acre Hunting's 2018 Embrace the Journey is brought to you in partnership with Real World Wildlife Products, Radix Trail Cameras, and Treehopper LLC. So, I touched on in the opener a little bit, the season started out great. Everything went flawlessly. Kind of like how you plan the season to go. Dropping Cicero on October 5th was amazing. I'm still kind of floating on cloud 9 about that, and I was really excited about the year. As you guys who have followed know, I began to have a chance at something that doesn't happen in Indiana much unless you get drawn for a special park hunt or something like that. There's few reduction zones spread out throughout Indiana where the biologist deems it necessary to target the herd to reduce it for a multitude of different reasons, social reasons, too many car crashes, things of that nature. So I have two properties that fall into that area, and I began pretty much days after the Cicero hunt. I really wanted to get that second buck tag earned and try to get a buck down. There's a lot of good bucks running around. I knew my chances of being able to target two deer again were not high. It's not something that I've ever been able to do or target or try to accomplish. So I began to antlerless hunt very, very fervently. I was at the swamp property one night, and I actually made a video just because I was dealing with a bunch of people sighting in their guns. There was bullets even flying through the woods. I could hear them flying through the woods to the north of me. I even contemplated getting down, and then it got quiet. And lo and behold, the woods kind of started opening up. It was the night before firearm season that I was hunting out there. Had my bow, and I waited. I had a couple doe filter down and get right into a spot. They were feeding on some acorns along the fence line that I was in, and I waited for one to pop out, slow, full draw. She was at 20 yards, and I slowly squeezed that trigger. To this day, I still don't understand what happened. My shot impacted left of where my first instinct was, wow, that's left. She was broadside, maybe 10 or 5 degrees quartering, but pretty much 100% broadside. And her head was to my left, so a left shot moved it up towards that leg and that shoulder. And so watching the flight, I remember thinking it was left, hearing the impact of not the good sound. It hit something really solid, either a thick part of that shoulder blade or the shoulder, leg, and bone itself. And I watched that deer run off, my Luminox sticking out, bouncing with it. And long story short, guys, we committed that entire night after giving her a long time to settle down. We never did find that deer. And it's tough. I remember Friday night, we found the arrow snapped when she crossed the creek, and we found from the fletchings to where it busted, and we estimated about 8 to 11 inches was still inside of her, we hoped, and we would be able to recover her, but we weren't. And my only hope is that the impact was even farther left than I imagined, and maybe it just slammed into her brisket. Maybe it missed her lungs, her heart, everything. Well, obviously it missed her heart, because if it hit her heart, we would have found her. But we only had good blood for about a 30 to 40 yard stretch, and she ran. Visually, I watched her run 60 yards down the edge, and then probably 80 to 100 yards up through the woods. So she had already made it 200 yards, dead run, and not like a dead deer running, but a dead run, like you see deer take off. I committed all Friday night, and then I came back Saturday, and me and Pops grid searched every single yard of that property. It was excruciating. I remember actually vomiting Friday night, and a lot of guys. I even had a couple people that told me, well, at least it's just a doe. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're watching this video and you can just shrug off not finding a shot animal because it doesn't have antlers on its head, this may seem extremely blunt, but I don't even want you watching my channel. I don't want you following small acre hunting unless you're open and receptive and you are beginning to understand that's not the proper way of thinking. I commit a ton of time and effort, and as do all of you guys. This is a passion, this is a love, and we're not just bloodthirsty creatures that are just out to end the life of a deer. No, we're out there for the journey, the celebration. We begin to form a almost like a relationship, as weird as that sounds, with these animals and these deer, and we watch them so much. And in bow hunting, they get in really close to you before you take a shot. And it's my responsibility as a hunter to take ethical shots to hopefully end that deer's life swiftly and cleanly. And sadly, it just doesn't happen all the time. I licked my wounds for a long time. I didn't hunt for a while. I patrolled my property for trespassers for a while in gun season, and then I finally grabbed the muzzleloader during firearm season and went to the new 22 and decided to try to target an antlerless deer there. I had a bunch of button bucks running around, and humongous piece of humble pie was served up yet again. 67-yard shot on a button buck, literally one of the 3 or 4 button bucks out there that I absolutely went out there to shoot, because I have just a plethora of them, and tons of yearlings and 2.5 and 3.5 plus year old bucks. I don't need a bunch of button bucks. Shot, thought it was good. Long story short, didn't find him that night, and we only found blood in one spot. And then the next day, grid searching again, because these animals deserve that, I actually jumped a button buck, and we looked at the bed. There was no blood. I checked the mounds. He jumped up and over a bunch of dirt mounds, and there was blood, little specks. So clearly it was a flesh wound. I had hit just muscle or something to where he didn't even bleed out in his bed. He didn't bleed at all in his bed, and it was only when I jumped him and aggravated him that he bled. So here I am sitting on the best season of my entire life, the night of October 5th, shooting the largest buck of my life, and entering into the rest of the season, with my good recovery history intact. I very rarely have not found a deer. I've shot at and missed or grazed deer that I know lived, but this year was the first year where I know that doe's dead. I really do. I believe that I got enough penetration that it shredded that one lung, and she was able with adrenaline and stuff to make it, but we grid searched that entire property. We couldn't go off onto other properties, and it's just a fact of the life of a hunter that it's eventually going to happen. If it hasn't happened to you, keep hunting. It will. You'll lose a deer, and if it doesn't cause you excruciating agony and just chews you up, you're probably in the wrong sport. It should eat at you. It should just fester inside of you. Had a buddy lose a buck this year. that he knows he wounded, he knows it's alive, but oh, the pain. But let's look at this in the closing minutes. You know, what are some things that we can learn from both instances of mine? Shot selection is usually one of the first things I look at, and really I waited until I had a good shot on that doe with the bow. The only thing I can think of to this day, and when I climb that tree stand, I know I'm gonna look. I don't believe there were any branches in my way, but I know I was shooting through an opening, through a pocket, and there's a chance that there was a sumac branch or a thin branch that I did not see that caused that shot to err to the left. Sorry. So constant manicuring of shot lanes is probably something that I need to learn from that. I like to visualize every single shot that I can have, and I avoid, if I have a branch going up through an opening, I don't shoot. But there's a chance flying right over that opening that the bottom part of that opening through the branches wasn't as clean as I thought it was. I waited 2 hours, 2.5 hours before I tracked her. So that's something that a lot of people need to learn about. But, you know, we gave her a ton of time before we ever entered the woods, knowing that the shot wasn't good. We never did jump her. We never did find a bed. So I know I didn't start tracking her too soon, but that's one thing that anybody watching this, I have heard numerous cases just this year of guys getting down way too soon. If you don't see a deer die, I mean, Cicero was a good example. I waited an hour, actually it was like an hour and a half to even start tracking this guy, and I heard him crash, but I didn't see him go down. If they're dead, they're dead. They're not going anywhere, so don't push it. But the big thing that I know from my 2 failures this year, and the big slice of humility pie that I've ate, is the fact that when I don't gun hunt much. I'm a big bow hunter. This is really the first year I've picked up a gun in a long time, and I've picked it up multiple times now this year. Well, no, I guess I only truly gun hunted once that night, but I just don't gun hunt much, and I've come to realize that I take it too much for granted. And if any of you guys are out there, you know, I think sometimes it's really easy to you know, assume a lot when you have a firearm in your hands. It should be easier. You know, you put a defense pistol and put me at a range or a training session with my AR and stuff, I'm money. But hunting wise, I just don't do it enough. I don't go to the range. I don't shoot out to 100 yards, 200 yards. I don't have the same system in place when I'm shooting my bow. You know, it's a whole process. I have a spot that I find on my neck with my thumb. I know exactly where my finger's going to be against my cheek. I know how I'm looking down that thing. I know my breathing when I'm shooting my bow. I don't have that for gun, and that's something that I've already decided moving forward I'm going to do. By the time next year rolls around, I'm going to have an entire process for my shooting of a firearm, to where from the second I flip that safety off, how I find my groove, my breathing, my look, I don't know what it'll be, but I'm going to pick a couple hand placement for my thumb and my pointer finger along the gun, maybe even do a little etching along there, just as a little memory serve. Just, I need that muscle memory, I need that confidence and that system in place, that when I raise up my gun, it's not just raise and shoot. There's a little bit of a slowdown process, because I know I rushed that shot. I know I assumed so much, put it in the crosshairs to squeeze. I probably, you know, leaned into that shot some, didn't let the trigger surprise me, just did everything that you should not do. And it's everything that if I used to be a range safety officer, and I would help people with their pistol shooting in the ranges, and, you know, I punch that trigger, and that's the last thing you do whenever you're shooting any gun. So there's things that I need to work on. There's things that I hope to do moving forward. And even this year, I'm going to focus on breathing down, because I am going to try to get out there, and there's still time to earn that second buck tag. It's early December right now, but wanted to bring this video to you guys because the one thing I've always tried to be is authentic and real. And I think this is a conversation that a lot of people are unwilling to have, because we're unwilling to admit our failures. And you know what? I'm just a heap of failure. God didn't make me any better than any other man or woman out there watching. So he's blessed me at times more than I deserve, that's for sure. But I want to keep it real, want to keep it honest with you guys. So if you've experienced failure this year, learn from it. there's always, just like when I'm setting up the tree stand, I'm always asking the question about habitat. What can I do to better my next season? What can I do to not have this happen again? What can I control to make sure that these mistakes don't happen again? Because me as a hunter, I refuse to have another season like this. I refuse to not take steps to ensure a better result. Oh, the biggest thing that I learned from that shot on the bow with the bow and that doe is the fact that I know if I had the arrow build that I want and have wanted for years, I would have blown through that shoulder and gotten enough penetration to get through at least the one lung and into the other one. I don't have them handy, but I've switched up my broadheads. If you check out Facebook, you'll see what I'm shooting. Going into next year, I'm building a new arrow setup. My total arrow weight will be at least around 600 grains. Huge step up. I'm doing a single bevel, 2-blade, cut on contact, hard hitting 200 grain head made by Grizzly Stick. Yeah, I chose the Samurai. So check it out, guys. That's what you got to do. You got to learn from your mistakes, move forward, get over them. It's tough, but learn from them. So this is Ty. This has been a negative aspect of hunting, but one that I think we have to have, and one that is fitting to have on the Embracing the Journey series of this year. So you've seen some videos and some pictures. I'm going to share a few pictures of some bucks and some of the trail cam pictures. We got a lot of pictures of does and bucks moving around. So High Rise or Sky Rise is out there. I can never remember what I actually called him. It's either High Rise or Sky Rise, but he is such a cool buck. Pops almost killed him. He's a deer that we've kind of put on the hit list just because we don't think he's going to grow into be an amazingly massive deer, but he is so cool. He's so unique, and we'll see what happens. Pops and I hopefully will still, between the two of us, get at least one buck down. Pop still has 2 buck tags. He's still trying. Last night he went out and saw 4 does at the homestead property feed up out of his bedding area, but nothing was with him. So I think that's all I got now, guys. God bless, and as always, good luck out there. Thanks for watching this episode of Embracing the Journey. If you could do me a favor, please like, subscribe, click that little bell on YouTube so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Be sure to swing over to the Facebook page and the website, subscribe to the email. Remember, I don't blast a ton of emails your way, maybe a half dozen a year. Thanks again for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the next time on Embracing the Journey.